All right, the framing's done. All the pulleys are in. Now I need to cut some angle iron, get these pulleys attached, put these things together, and hang this thing from the ceiling. All right, the 4 brackets are done and they are looking good. They are very solid. These are all gonna go up on the ceiling, and then what's gonna end up happening is the wire rope is gonna come around here, spin on this, hit this hole here, and if you remember from part 1, I've got another pulley, another one of these pulleys, right down in this hole here. So then the wire is gonna connect here, hit the pulley, whole thing's gonna go to the roof. It's good. I'm just gonna go through exactly what I did and show you the details of the winch operated pulley system in all its glory. This is the winch hookup up here. You can see that I made a little bracket for the battery. So it's an ATV battery. Drill it into the wall. It's a 1,000-pound winch, pretty cheap one actually from Princess Auto. For you guys in the States, that's the equivalent of a Harbor Freight type winch. And then this drops down here. This is the control for it. What I'm gonna do eventually is take this, splice into these 2 wires, come across here, up, around, bring it all the way down by the door, and then you'll be able to hit the button by the door. And then this whole thing will raise and lower by pushing a button over there. So these angle brackets I made out of 1 1/4 inch angle iron, slotted angle iron. And then I had a 3.5 inch garage door pulley. This is gonna hold no problem. I don't have a welder, so that's why this looks like it does. The hook on the end of the winch is rated for 1,000 pounds, but the hose clamps are doing nothing to help that. They're basically just keeping it centered on the threaded rod. They're keeping it in place so that if it loses tension here, let's say for whatever reason, it hits here, it comes in here, hits there, and then you lose tension on this part here, that's just not gonna fall off. That's all that's for. So the hose clamps actually don't add anything to it in terms of strength, but they do make sure that this thing won't fall apart if it loses tension on the entire thing. So you can see this thing is pretty tight. As I pull down on this, I'm actually standing on it right now. The whole thing moves around. So I'm standing on it. This thing is obviously very solid. I have to stand right in the middle because if you start to go off to one side, then it starts to tilt a little bit. And you'll notice if I tilt it back and forth, so if I tilt left to right like this, left, right, you can see this thing rotates left and right. So there's a little bit of give in this, but nothing that I need to be worried about because all the connections are strong enough to handle anything that I put on this. So all of these, I mean, I rated this, all of the connections at about 1,000 pounds each. If anything fails on this, it's going to be the wood. The wood will fail before anything else. This cable is 3/16. That's super strong for this application. All the other components are made out of high quality steel, so there's nothing that's gonna break on this. And the winch obviously is 1,000 pounds, so that's not gonna be a problem either. The way this works is fairly straightforward. These cables here, it's hooked on with some L brackets and clamps, comes all the way down underneath this side here. Underneath, it hooks into the pulley here, goes all the way across to the middle, and then it goes back up. And that happens 4 times. The reason I do this is because I wanted to hide the pulleys. So it makes it a nice clean look. You just got this, the wire coming through the hole here. I'm gonna clean all this up. I'm gonna paint it eventually. And then this lag bolt here goes right through the pulley, the hidden pulley. This is just a 2x4. And the pulley is hidden underneath here. There's 8 contact points here. So these are the 2 in the middle and the back, 2 in the middle on the front, and then you've got your lag bolts on the side over here. If you're wondering about stability, this thing is actually very solid. So the middle, if I put weight here, it's not going anywhere because this is the center point of the entire apparatus, machine, whatever you want to call it. If I put weight on the far right side, you can see it does tilt, but I have to put a lot of weight on here for this thing to start moving. You can see in the top, as I tilt it, it starts to move those around. I'm not really worried about that. That's not gonna affect anything. And I'm gonna make sure that the load is even when this gets loaded up with storage material. I also added these hooks all the way along the edge. Every foot, I've got eye hooks. Throwing some bungee cords to those hooks. So anything that I put on top of here, it's gonna be load balanced, so to speak. And then I'm going to put bungee cords on top of it. And then once it goes up to the ceiling, everything should be nice and tight. The only thing that I haven't done here really is add a safety mechanism, like a redundancy mechanism for if the winch fails. Okay, so I actually figured out a really good way to make this safe and redundant and make sure it's not gonna fall on me when I'm working here. You can see that there's actually tension right now in the winch cable. So this isn't holding anything right now, but the storage system is in the air. So how's that working? What I did was I put together a couple of straps here, connected them to this. This is all reinforced with 3.5-inch screws into the studs of the garage wall. And then you've got these cables here, which loop around the edge. And these hook this one here and this one here, loop around the ends here. So it loops around the end here. So when I want to take this off, I basically hit the button, pull this tight. This will pull the slack off of these, and then these get slack right here. These two cables here will get slack, and I can basically just pull this loop off the edge. This will take the tension of the entire unit, and then the entire thing is able to retract and move all the way over here. And then I can drop it down. And it's nice because it actually gets down about right around waist height, which is just about perfect. That's exactly what I wanted, because I wanted to be able to stack things up comfortably, really without doing much work, because, you know, it's a hell of a lot of work to do this, but in the end I am kind of lazy, so there you go. So here we go. Oh, wrong way. Okay, so you can see that for the most part, this thing is working perfectly. It is almost perfectly level. It's extremely strong. There's no way this thing's gonna fall down. One thing I did wrong, which I need to change, is you can see right up there, this piece is already bending. So it wasn't bending when I first started, but I put my weight right on this point here, and it already started to bend. All right, so I replaced the bent 3/8-inch threaded rod with a 3/4-inch threaded rod. There's no way this thing's gonna bend. This thing is extremely strong. It's only about 1.5 feet long, so there's no way there's gonna get any bend in the middle of it here. I threaded the aircraft cable around the nuts in the 4 places that connect to the pulleys. Travel all the way back to the upper pulleys on the roof. Those are the 2 back ones. And then hit this bracket here. I'll explain why I used the hose clamps in a second. And then it travels all the way back to, I guess I should say all the way front to the front of the garage right there, to the pulley and the battery setup. So I wanted to make sure that the battery wasn't going to drain fully anytime that I wanted to use this. So I got a cheap trickle charger, just a cheap 2-amp one, and I put it up onto the wall. So this is permanent. It's connected over there with all these cables all the way running down. So this thing is never gonna lose charge. This thing's always gonna be topped up. And then anytime I need to use the cable to retract this thing, this battery will be fully charged and I will have no issues moving this thing up and down. Okay, so as you can see, this thing holds a lot of gear, a lot of material. I'm happy with it. Most of the stuff, it's mostly for seasonal things. It's mostly for stuff that I'm not gonna be using for a long time because obviously, you know, they're gonna be up in the ceiling. So I want to be able to put this stuff away. It's 11 feet long by 4 feet deep. I wanted something substantial. I wanted to be able to fit a lot of things on it. I wanted to be strong enough to hold a lot of things. Asking yourself, how is this all connected to the ceiling and why won't it fall? So in this ceiling here, in this part, you've obviously got your drywall, but you've got your joist studs across there. All those black caps, those are 4.5-inch lag bolts that I have drilled into the joist running across the ceiling to ensure that I could put the pulleys in the right location. All right, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, sub, etc., all the YouTube stuff, just do it if you want to see more stuff. I've got a full kitchen rental coming up. I've got an outdoor fire pit build coming up. And beyond that, it's kind of a nice thing to do.